Welcome to my new series, Coaches Rewind. I'm going to rewatch some old games from either Marymount or other volleyball games I've been at, break down some very interesting plays, give you some tips and tricks, and help you get better at volleyball. Let's get right into it. For our first episode here, we're taking it back to February 10th, 2023, Marymount versus Juniata. At this point in time, for some context, Juniata was the number one ranked team in the country. I think they were undefeated at this point through January, so a little bit over a month of volleyball play. And they came into our home gym for one of our first CVC matchups of the season. And this was an absolute wild game, a 5-set thriller, up and down, back and forth. So let's dive right into some of the plays and see what ended up turning out from this game. The first play we're going to look at here is in set 4. The score is 23-17. The Marymount has the lead. This is right after a substitution took place where Juniata subbed in their second setter for their starting setter, Reese Ganter. Down 6, first play after the substitution. We get a serve from Devin. Really good serve. Takes the setter out here, and he somehow finds Kevin Duffy for this really special kill. So, a couple things here. First, this is his first set. This is his first time touching the ball, and you see a contortion of the body, still able to locate, find his middle, in traffic, in trouble, and put it where only he can get the ball and put it down. That is a spectacular play. The degree of difficulty on this set for anyone, let alone the moment in the game and the lack of touches in the game, is pretty impressive. And then the fact that Duffy's able to get this and just be really athletic and punch this ball to the ground is pretty impressive too. From a setting standpoint, you can see he does a really good job here of tracking the ball, squaring up, and leading Duffy. Duffy doesn't have many options here, but this is one of the ones that he has. He's coming in hot, and he leads him enough where he's still outside Esteban and can throw it down. So pretty impressive play for being that first play into the game, and that was really a spark plug for the Eagles. You could tell they used that and carried it into the rest of the match. The next play we're going to look at is 9-3. In the first set, this was after Devin Robinson went on an absolute killer run, had like 3 or 4 service aces and probably 7 points in a row earned on his serve, which is very impressive to do. Juniata back to serve here, and they put a ball perfectly in the seam that Esteban steps right into. Gives a pretty decent pass here to G. One thing to note here, Juniata really cautious, really aware of the middle. They're really aware of Kirk. They know he's a threat, so they're going to put 2 blockers pretty much on him. This guy, Goldsboro, is in base pretty much solely to help out in the middle here. Now, the D-ball is an option, but they're focused on taking this away. And by doing that, they get a block touch on this ball. Even though G sets about as perfect of a ball as you can, with a pass bringing him off the 10-foot line. He still leads Kirk, keeps it in front of him, perfect trajectory where he can hit down on the ball. A lot of times you see when middles get pulled off the net and setters get pulled off the net, they find a really tough time in staying on top and hitting. They end up hitting sideways or just kind of slapping at the ball. This is really on the setter. See how G does a really good job of turning his hands here at the very last moment to make sure he's leading and finding that window for Kirk. You have to lead your hitters when you're behind them and you want to run tempo. So really good job of there off the bat. Then you get a really kind of poor quality touch from the libero, and the rally carries on here as Will resets us with a really good free ball pass, and G sets tempo to Esteban, who is either a little late or this ball's a little tight. Kind of tough to tell from this angle. It looks like a pretty good set. It looks like it beats the block, but it seems like it's just a little close to the net for Esteban to get a full swing on it. Juniata picks it up. Ganter shoots this out with pace, and then Goldsboro gets blocked. You might see that and be like, okay, it's just, a good block, and that happens. But let's break this down a little bit further. So one thing Juniata likes to do is they're off front row player. They like to have them cover around the block. So you'll see Goldsboro here, when this ball goes to the pin, he's pinching in for any tips in the middle of the court. That's what they like to do. They do that all the time. So he has to make a full transition from the middle all the way to the outside. And that's a tough thing to do when you're running a tempo offense. So you see he kind of resets here, but by that time he's too late and that ball's too far outside for him to stay in front of. So he ends up leaning back and hitting this ball low into the seam. And when you do that, you're typically going to get blocked. When you're ever leaning back to hit, you can't see what's in front of you. So it's really just a guessing game. He hits low in the seam, and that's right where Camden's hands are. So I do not recommend anybody hitting backwards low. If you find yourself in a situation where you're leaning backwards to hit, hitting low and hard is not the way to go. So really good block here by Camden though. Kirk also identifying this, and they get a really good double block up here. So good execution from a blocking standpoint on this play. Next play, still the first set, 11-3, and another interesting play here. The Eagles are in row 5, which means they have a front row setter, they have a front row middle on the left, and a front row outside on the right. So 2 primary hitters here, and then they obviously have their back row players as well. But you get a good quality serve here, and Esteban's primary responsibility is this middle, since he's running behind the setter. So he shifts over, and you see Mason pointing that his responsibility shifted, indicating to Esteban that that's his guy. So he goes up with Duffy, but Juniata runs a D ball behind the back one and pretty much get almost an empty net swing here, and they capitalize. But the reason that's pretty interesting is you don't often see a back one stacked with a D ball. It's really tough to get the timing right where these blockers aren't seeing that right. So credit to Ganter to fooling Esteban here on the timing and getting that 1-on-0 attack. But also kind of the reason why you don't like stacking blockers over like that is you put 2 blockers in a zone where you have 2 of your hitters. So the only reason you might bring 2 guys over here is to set the outside where you'll have a 1-on-1. But that all being said, sometimes things don't always work according to plan. From a defensive standpoint, they make the most of this attack and put it away. So more credit to them. Next play, we are at 14-11 in the first set still, and this is after a little bit of a resurgence from Juniata. Goldsboro just got 2 service aces in a row, 1 off Devin, 1 off Will. They're kind of bringing this charge back a little bit. So keep that in mind when you see this serve come in and Josh Furman dive into this seam and absolutely dot this pass. I mean, perfect pass, great tempo, great trajectory, a little bit middle, but that's a 3 ball we'll take all day against one of the best servers in the CVC. We use that, and G gets Devin 1-on-1, and he hammers this ball into the seam, but their defensive libero picks this ball up. Juniata used 2 liberos, one primarily for service, one for defense. You can see the really good hand placement here, just using those independent arms to scoop that ball up like we talk about all the time. One other thing to note on this swing is Devin burned their libero about, 3 points ago in that same spot in that corner. So he adjusts and fills that zone after learning where that ball was hit previously. So does a really good job there, which leads to an overpass that Josh kind of catches a little bit high and ends up overpassing this ball as well. But it's in the zone where Grayson can go up and dunk it, which is incredible IQ to notice that point in time, where he is on the court, knowing he's front row, and just finding that open space to dunk that ball down. Josh can say all he wants about this was intentional, but this seems like a little bit of a miscalculation and just kind of a lucky break, but pretty cool point. And you can see the athleticism from G. His head's chin above the net, and just a slam dunk there. So pretty cool point. The last point we'll look at today is another one from the first set. A lot of really fun and exciting plays in the first set. 11-8 at this point. We're in receive in row 3. So 3 front row players. Esteban passes this ball a little tight. You can see he jumps with both feet in the air, which I don't love as a passer. I like to have some sort of foundation, some sort of base on the ground to be able to control the ball, but he jumps with both feet, which leads to a little bit of a tight pass. But Grayson does a good job of going up with 2 anyways, beating this ball before it breaks the plane, and Mason follows with a perfect kill to the corner. Whenever that ball's tight as a middle, you want to follow your setter. Get close to them and be up and ready to put that ball away on a 1-on-0. Mason does that. An excellent side out, and Esteban loves it. Yeah, like I said, this was a really fun game, really back and forth. We had some really big plays. They had some really big plays. Any match that goes to 5 sets is going to be one that, you're going to see some good quality volleyball taking place. So yeah, this is the first iteration of the series. I want to take all the footage that I have from all the previous games that I've filmed and use them in some capacity. Let me know if there's another game that you want me to analyze and break down, whether it's Marymount or someone else, and we'll keep this series going. That's all I got for you today in this video, but we'll see you on the next one. Peace.